This is Guitar Hero 2. We're here on Xbox 360. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. It's time to rock in absolute silence because the music copyright would absolutely roast me alive. So yeah, liking the video is great. Subscribing is great as well. Let's talk about Guitar Hero. So this was the second entry in the Guitar Hero franchise and the first to make its way over to Xbox, debuting on the Xbox 360, coming hot off the heels of the PS2 release of the game. This brought us the iconic Guitar Hero guitar from back in the day, that white Stratocaster of magic, and allowed us to enjoy really just an awesome, well-designed, high-octane rockin' time. So it was meant to be played mostly, I would say, by yourself. You know, you could kind of go in there and rock it out together, but it was mostly, it was mostly single player driven as you sort of walk through a career of sorts where you were trying to unlock additional songs. That was your levels, was every few songs a part of a list, and when you got enough you kind of moved on to the next tier and you built your way up through this rock fantasy that was largely driven through cover songs. Most of these were cover versions for the game, and there was something like more than 40 popular licensed track lists. Like the track list actually grew exponentially with each of the titles that kind of came out, and we got more. And then there was also like a retro smash hits pack too that kind of did like a little bit of a best of sort of series. And of course eventually Guitar Hero led into what would eventually be Rock Band from Harmonix, because Harmonix actually did this one, and Red Octane published it on the PlayStation 2, and then Activision handled it for the 360, and then obviously the Guitar Hero franchise continued to grow over time. But yeah, this was a pretty rockin' thing back in the day. So yeah, we got the set list of music from the 60s to the 2000s. Obviously, since this was in the late 2000s, I guess you would say, was when this came out, so there's obviously a little bit more of a limited selection for music, and we don't really get rock music these days much either as far as new stuff, so that's kind of how it sort of went. And there was lots and lots of follow-ups. So yeah, just that white Explorer, which I still use to this day when I can play Rock Band on the retro stuff. Just an absolutely legendary guitar, and it was such a big deal. Yeah, so Activision literally purchased Red Octane, the publisher, back in '06, and they wanted to expand Guitar Hero, and they did that with the success of the 360. They were kind of building outwards and decided to do so. So this game, really quite simple. I mean, it always was, right? You have a lane, it goes down, there's buttons for the different colors, you match those with the guitar, you hit them, you gain points based on the streaks that you gather, you use your star power, which I was really struggling to do here. You gotta remember, I was a bit rusty when I was sitting there kind of spending a day going through all the Guitar Hero games to kind of film and have a little bit of fun with, so it's like, jumping right back into Expert after so many years. I can't play the other difficulties because they're too slow, but yeah, it's a little bit of rust, so you're gonna have to give me a little bit of a break. You're actually probably good that you can't hear the music, otherwise it'd be like because I'm missing all those notes. But yeah, you sort of fill the rock meter. You have to keep that up in order to keep the crowd going, or you fail, by failing too much in a row. Pretty well set up, and obviously it got kinder as the series went on. You try to get the best score you can with multipliers, or you fail and get crashed out and pushed off the stage, and everybody's sad. And then of course the star power, lift the guitar up, get the points, or if you get a long note, you can do a little bit of whammy bar action, which is really cool. And of course, I think there's also a button you could press to do the energy drive. But all I know was rocking the guitar up in the air. And then this one was sort of just the series defining sort of target. It was a 720p at 60 FPS. It did seem like there was a stutter occasionally or something like this sort of, and I don't know if that's just sort of when you sort of calibrate the screen kind of a thing or what, but yeah, anyways, that was kind of how it was going, and it's just kind of cool. So yeah, you do either the quick play, or you do the career mode. Mostly it was career mode, and you unlock the songs and stuff, but you could jump in and play quick play, and then there was online, I guess it was leaderboards and stuff, so you could pair with others, and of course we've got our iconic initial characters, because obviously a rock game has to have a set of rock characters, right? You got to have like a rock band crew that you could sort of have. So we had the 8 characters, the different types of music that were present. You know, there was Eddie Knox, the rockabilly, Axel Steele for heavy metal, Casey Lynch for hard rock, Lars the Mulut for extreme metal, Izzy Sparks for glam, and Judy Nails for alternative. Also, Johnny Napalm for punk, and Pandora for gothic. There were additional characters that you can purchase as you, again, sort of work through the career mode, and that's kind of how you went through it. Lead guitar is available to be played in career modes. Oh, only lead guitar, that makes sense. And then, yeah, you kind of expand things, and you move through the venues. You go all the way from, like, a small high school up through various bars, and then, you know, you go on a big tour. And I think the game ended with, like, Stonehenge, which is kind of wild. You know, you get the display and the lights, the atmosphere reacting to how well you're playing and how well you're performing. And, yeah, you just kind of build up and unlock all these new songs, and then keep going, and there's different difficulties, and you kind of progress through those difficulties, and that's sort of an extra layering of, like, I guess building up your legacy and everything. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I think there was a little bit of extra content too if you went through the Xbox Live Marketplace for Guitar Hero 2 stuff. And then yeah, we had different modes. There's like cooperative, where you kind of like, you know, one plays lead, one plays the bass or rhythm guitar. Face off for kind of like battling against others. And then there's like a pro face off. So yeah, pro face off, which is a little bit more intense. And yeah, it's just kind of like really well done. It had an incredible soundtrack, I think, like a pretty widespread soundtrack of music from back in the day. Everything from like Guns N' Roses to Black Sabbath and Van Halen, and all these really, really good little songs and stuff, and a good mix of additional options. And then yeah, as I mentioned, there was like some additional purchasing songs and stuff for the 360 version, but most of it was like cover versions, so you didn't really, you know, they didn't really have like necessarily like the full, I would say it was the budget back in the day, if that makes sense. And yeah, that was kind of the thing, is it's like it was mostly cover songs, and then we finally started getting like masters and stuff as the later entries kind of released, and the game grew in size, and the expectations of the audience grew, and we just started getting better and better versions. But yeah, this one was pretty cool. Personally, I kind of really entered it from a Guitar Hero 3 standpoint. That one to me is always kind of like the big definitive sort of Guitar Hero experience, and then I sort of went back, I guess you would say, to Guitar Hero 2 and kind of played afterwards. As you know, I had one pal that was like really into Guitar Hero 2, and I was always more like Guitar Hero 3, and you know, like then I played like all the ones afterwards, and unless I think there's one I missed, the last one they did, I kind of was sort of over it, I guess you would say, at that point, or had been so oversaturated by music that I was kind of like, okay, I've got enough of this between Rock Band, Guitar Hero, and or I just missed it, or there was other stuff going on in my life at that time. Really hard to say in hindsight, but that's kind of how it went. But I would say this was still an incredible, you know, game. If you look past the element of so many of the songs being, you know, the songs, basically the setlist being cover songs, which I think all sound really good and actually do, you know, capture the essence and the vibe. I mean, obviously you probably want that iconic, full, like, proper, this is the band doing this kind of thing, but I think they did a great job, especially at the time, especially as this was sort of an innovation that was kind of growing, and something that would continue to grow for quite a few years and become this big, huge, successful part of the industry until it absolutely crashed. Guitar Hero 2 was a mighty game for what it was, outside of, again, the cover stuff. But, you know, it had like a few different modes, it had a good amount of songs you could play through, it had a great vibe, a great sense of atmosphere, and it really helped lay the foundation for what would become such a successful part of the industry for such a long, well, actually it wasn't that long of a time, I guess, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. The music genre came hard, it was big, and then it sort of faded quickly almost, right? But there's still that legacy of enjoying these games, and always hoping we get to see a little bit more down the road. But I wanted to go in and, is he breathing fire? Wanted to go in and revisit Guitar Hero 2 and talk about the Guitar Hero franchise in general, as they were so fun to play back in the day, and I hope this was a little bit of a nostalgia thing for you. And again, you know, if you could like the video and subscribe, that would be great, or just talk about your memories of Guitar Hero, because it was a lot of fun to sort of sit here and just kick back and rock out again. And I hope someday we get to see new experiences from this franchise.